Hey guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with some forced proximity romances, which I always love. I love it when they sometimes like either can't stand each other and have to be around each other, or they have this like intense chemistry and they keep on having to be around each other and they just like can't escape each other or can't escape addressing how they feel about each other. So I am very excited to chat about these, and a lot of times also like the forced proximity causes them to get to know each other and then really start falling for each other, and then that like chemistry comes in as well. So I love a good forced proximity trope. I will go ahead and get to my recommendations. The first one is going to be King of Sloth by Anna Huang. I love this book so much. It is a big, thick one, and my spine's more like purple. I have to see, I have my other two. So I do have, I guess they're both, I think one of them's a little bit more purpley than the other. So I do have my Barnes & Noble Special Edition, which I think does have art in it, doesn't it? No art in this. Oh yes, okay, so the Barnes & Noble Special Edition has this art on the inside, and then the normal one, I don't know if this one has any art. No, the normal edition has no art that I have, and then my Target edition has the step back art, which I am obsessed with. So I have a lot of editions of this book, but I love it. And so King of Sloth is about Javier and Sloan, and Sloan is definitely a very serious person. Is grumpy girl, sunshine boy, so she is definitely so serious and takes everything seriously and doesn't want to get in trouble, and her job is actually working PR for her clients, so she has to keep them in line. And Javier, he cannot mess up again or else something will happen, and she is determined to make sure he keeps his like reputation clean and doesn't get in trouble again. And so he ends up daring her to go on vacation with him, and she ends up having to go and like follow him around and make sure he doesn't get into trouble, and it is their romance, and I just think this is so fun. And there's a lot of scenes that really feel like rom-coms to me, and I really love that aspect about this book, and you really uncover things about Javier and why he is the way he is, and it's just so good because he's just like a billionaire playboy. He doesn't have to do anything. He just has a lot of money, which is why it's called King of Sloth. But I really enjoy this, and I can't wait to reread it through audio. I do have the audiobook sitting on my phone, so I definitely want to reread this one. Then I have one that I know everybody's been talking about, but like, listen, I love this, and I don't think I've seen a lot of people not liking it, and that is Funny Story by Emily Henry. If you're hesitant at all, I am really hesitant about her books. I loved her first one, did not like her next two, and never read book 4. So I went into this one because I saw a lot of people talking about it. I had an early copy, I read it. It is so good. They're roommates. So they are both in relationships. She's actually engaged, ready to be married. She moved to Michigan to live with him, and their fiancés, I don't remember if he was engaged, but his girlfriend and her fiance broke up with them to be with each other. So they're like, I can't afford to live alone. I don't even know what to do with my life. It's like turned upside down. All my plans are just like gone. So they end up moving in together. And at first I was very skeptical of the hero because he's just sitting there stoned all the time. I mean, listen, he's a little depressed, but the heroine definitely judged him immediately, but learned like a lot more about him. He works at a winery. He knows like so many people in town. He goes around to get supplies for his winery all the time. And so he tells her that he wants her to fall in love with the town because she's like, I'm gonna leave by the end of the summer. I'll just go back home. I'll move by my mom. And he's like, but our town's like really great, and I think you really love it here. And she's learning more about herself and like making friends outside of being a couple with people who she works with at the library. And her and the hero end up doing like these kind of dates every like weekend to go around town, and obviously are falling in love with one another, but like they can't avoid each other when things like spice up between them or they're feeling certain feelings because they live together. So I love that kind of forced proximity where they go home and they're like, I can't escape you because you are my roommate. And it was so good. And then his sister comes in the picture too, and you're kind of addressing both of their families. So there was so much I loved about this book. Please read it if you haven't. The next one's a workplace romance, kind of, and that is The Rulebook by Sarah Adams. This one I listened to on audio and it was so good. The heroine is a sports agent. She broke the hero's heart in college. They were so madly in love, but she just really wanted to put herself and her passions first, so she broke up with him, and he was heartbroken. He was devastated. Now she is a sports agent, and her boss gave her a new client, and it's him. And she's like, I cannot do this. And she's like, you're taking on him as a client. And he doesn't know it's her until he shows up, and he is like, absolutely not. And he like goes to walk out the door. She convinces him to stay with her, but then he kind of like puts her through a bunch of like menial tasks in order to kind of like, you know, get back at her, and they end up having to address their hurt feelings from the past, and obviously they're falling in love with each other. I'm pretty sure he has an injury in this one. I read a lot of sports romances this month, but I'm pretty sure he was recovering from an injury. But also they end up in Vegas doing something in Vegas, and I just had so much fun. I really liked it, and they just can never escape each other because literally they have to work together. It's so good. The next one I gave 3.5 stars, but I did round up to 4, and I think a lot of people would really like it, and that is Catching Feelings by Marianne Moore. This is a special edition I got from a Polycon when I saw her. It's so pretty, but these are baseball romances. This one doesn't really have a ton of baseball in it, but he is a baseball player, and it's a roommate's romance. So in the beginning, they have a really, really hot hookup, and the heroine is like, never again, never again. I can't take you seriously. I don't want to deal with that. She has a lot to deal with already. She has her mom that needs a lot of her help, especially with money. And so her mom needs all of her money for rent for the upcoming school year, or the spring, whatever's going on. She's like, needs a place to stay. She can't afford to stay where she was because she gave all of her money to her mom. And the hero hears her talking about this at a party, and he's like, hey, I'm like really rich. He doesn't tell her that, but he's really rich, and he literally has a house to himself. So he's like, I have like a ton of room. If you really need a place to stay, like stay in one of my rooms. Feel free. And he's just a really genuinely good guy, but he's also super, super into her. Like he cannot get that night out of his head. He wants to be with her, and it's her that's like, no, like I cannot be attached to someone like you. So they're roommates, and this is another situation where they can't escape each other, and they're going through different things, and he just really wants to help her, and it was cute. I did really like it. I do wish we had more baseball in here, but college roommates romance, read Catching Feelings. If you want another workplace romance, I have Icky Factor by Morgan Elizabeth. I loved this book so much. She's his assistant, and he works at like a recording studio, and his father passed away. His father's best friend runs the studio, but he's retiring, and the hero should get it, but like his arch nemesis, who was his best friend in college, really screwed him over like every chance he gets, so they hate each other now. They're up against each other to take over the company, and so the heroine is like, I think that he's actually like sabotaging you, and we need to figure this out. And the hero is told by his uncle figure guy that he works too much and he doesn't know if he should give him the company. So he's like, I don't work too much, I'm engaged. Like, what are you talking about? And now him and the heroine have to pretend to be engaged because that would be the only thing that makes sense of why they would keep it a secret. So it is fake engagement, and they're with each other 24/7 all the time, and they actually really, really like each other. The heroine feels like he's the only one that doesn't give her like the ick. Anytime she dates someone, she always like gets just like icked out by them and never wants to date them again, and she's not feeling that for the hero. And I just had so much fun. Like the hero is so smitten and just like does little things for her that she has no idea he was doing, and I really liked it. So Icky Factor for a workplace romance. Then I can't find my copy of this one either. It is somewhere. It is not with my Samantha Young books though, so I don't know where I put it, but I have Through the Glen by Samantha Young, which is a writer romance. Now all of these are pretty much forced proximity because they take place at this like estate for wealthy people in the Scottish Highlands, and so the heroine had worked there, and she's very, very shy. We see her in the other two books in the series, and she's actually a secret writer. She has a very, very successful like crime mystery series that she wants to be turned into a movie, and so the hero is a really famous screenwriter. He's very much a playboy, and he like is a member of the estate that she works at, and she approaches him. She's like, can you make my books into a show or a movie? And he's like, no, I only do my original content. Like, no. He is intrigued, so he buys her book, and he's like, I can do this. So they move in together in her small cottage that she has and write this book. So it's very forced proximity because they're literally living like on top of each other in this little cottage, and things heat up very quickly between them, and I did really like it. But the hero is dealing with a lot with his father and his family, and the heroine is definitely kind of babied by her family because she had to go live with her uncle and her cousin, and her uncle passed away, so it's really just her cousin is all she has left, and he's very protective. He gets the next book, which I'm so excited for, but I really liked how they were writing together, and this one also has some suspense as well with a serial killer on the loose, which was really fun. So if you like small town Scottish Highlands forced proximity, read this one. Then I do have Fragile Sanctuary by Catherine Cowles. I got to read this early. This is her ARC copy. She had 4 different tropes she was sending out of these books, and I got the small town romance one, and this is her new book that comes out on the 16th. So add this to your TBR. This one, the heroine's entire family died in a fire when she was young, and so she was taken in by her best friend's family, and they have like a ton of siblings because they're all foster siblings, and they're really, really close, so this is definitely found family. But she is now wanting to rebuild her family home, and so one of her brothers is in construction, and his best friend works for him, and so that is our hero, Anson. He is an ex-profiler, super damaged and broody and moody and grumpy, and I love him. Their first meeting, he was like yelling at her, and she's like putting him in his place because he was wrong, and he is working, and he has like specializes in fire stuff, so so they have to work together all the time because he's around all the time because he's working on the house. So kind of workplace, but she is there because it's her property and her brother's helping. It's her brother's best friend working on the house, and it is so good. Obviously it's Catherine Kell, so there's a lot of suspense in here, and it is a small town romance and very emotional. I love this one so much. Like, one of my new favorite books by her, no lie, it's amazing. The last one I have is Tempting the Player by Rebecca Genchak. This one I love. This is my favorite Rebecca Genchak book. This one is where it is a bodyguard romance. She does not know he's her bodyguard in the beginning, so very like The President's Daughter, which is like one of my favorite movies. This one, she sees him around a lot. He's a little bit older, and she's like a old pop star. She's like not really like in the public eye anymore, but her parents had hired him to be her bodyguard, and she doesn't know. So she's like, they're getting closer and she likes him, and then about like 25% in, she figures out that he's her bodyguard, and she is so angry and feels betrayed, but he stays being her bodyguard, and he is there because he was a professional football player and got injured and then got this job being a bodyguard, and he took that job because his siblings all live there, and they are, I think, 4 brothers, and their parents passed away, so like he is basically helping take care of the brothers, but he had left to go follow his dreams to be a football player, so it fell onto his next oldest brother to really take care of the family, so he definitely feels very guilty for leaving them and wants to be there for them now, but he can't jeopardize this job even though he's falling for the person he's supposed to be guarding. It is so good. It is so good. Please read this if you haven't yet. My favorite of the series. And those are my forced proximity romance recommendations. Let me know if you've read these, and if you have any other recommendations for me, I would love to hear. And that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.